Oh, Lord, I want the truth. You know very well that's a dangerous thing to pray, don't you? He's liable to hear your prayer. Start in, and then look out. And I was praying, oh, Lord, I want the truth. I want the truth. Well, now, that was prayed honestly from my heart, but I was praying in ignorance because I didn't know what truth was really going to do to me. I just knew there was something in my being that hungered for it, yearned for it. I was restless for it. And I said, Lord, I want the truth. I want the truth, Lord. I had had some schooling, but I knew God had truth. So I found this poem was written as an aftermath. It is a little summing up of my reaction to it after God began to open truth to me. So I was riding along, and as I was meditating, this word came to me. So I put it down. I didn't know I'd ever use it again, but it has been used. It's all right. You see, I thought that when truth would come, I would reach out and take the lovely truth and shut it in my heart, and I would be transformed, and changed under its power, which is true. But I didn't know the disaster that was a consequence of having embraced it. I thought it would come in and set me free. Of course, which it did. So I prayed it, I say, in ignorance. I caught a flash of truth one day. How daring ignorance can be. And shut it up within my heart, a flame that danced and sang for me. It scorched hypocrisy and sham, and from earth bondage set me free. Its beauty searched my trembling soul and bared my inner self to me. In spite of pain, I loved the flame which woke within my hungry heart 10,000 songs I cannot sing, too subtle for my broken art. And wretched I, devoid of shame, reach out my bony hand for toll to let the gazing public see the fleeting shadows in my soul. And while they gaze, they call for song. I pipe upon a broken reed, for I must pipe to earn my bread. Mine is a hungry heart to feed. The alms I gather as I pass, the flame consumes both night and day. My heart gets little for its song, but feeds upon the ashes gray. O flash of truth, O cleansing flame, thy burning cannot do me ill. Though captive to thy mystic power, I hold thee a captive still. Do you like it? Do you like it? How many can follow it? Follow it. Follow it. That has been accepted as one of them. How many can see good philosophy back of it in a picturesque form? Now I want to read another one that she liked very much because of its simple, direct approach. Simple, direct approach. In a nutshell, a philosophy that we could very well carry with the rest of our lives, but all in epitome form, just in a nutshell form. Now I'll tell you how that one came. We are all acquainted with this fact that God permits in our experience certain high points in our experience. Do you know what I mean? In life, he lets us build up to a certain point in which perhaps there's a visitation or some contact with him. Something has happened at that high point that modifies us. And although it's forgotten, we are never the same afterwards. Do you get me or don't you? Yes. Now I call those little high points in our experience in which perhaps God may flash a truth which we embrace and hold, then the thing seems to fade, but it'll never fade out of your heart. But sometime he will let you recapture by suggestion the impact of that very thing. And how many know even a word will throw you into a brand new place? How many of you are easily transported? I am, because I'm half here and half there. Yes, a word sometimes. How many can be transported with a certain smell or odor? Easily, because that's the way we're made. That's why I believe in the beginning, before we came down in under the damage that's done to our senses, when they were fresh in their beauty and in their response, God made them that we should have much more in life than we have now. We only receive them through broken down, feeble, sick. Yes, that's right. They're sick and feeble and broken down. But how many of you know when the Holy Spirit touches them, how anxious he is to move up through them? Yes, he'll take them. Well, I call those little things a high point. Now, you learn this. You can't sustain or hold the wonder, the power, the impact. You can't sustain that. But it fades, but we can recapture it. You can, again, recapture it by certain things which God may permit to produce it or bring it into consciousness. That's right. But we can't maintain that and hold it. We couldn't live under it. How many know you couldn't? You couldn't live under it. The wonder of it. Have you ever lived over any emotional time like that you recapture it? How many know sometimes they're very haunting? How many know they're going to hurt you? How many know there's something strange in you that wants to be hurt? Yeah, that's right. I'm terrible on analysis. I know, but I know it. So when these little touches, high points come, they make this impact. Then later we recapture what it spelled to us then, and under that recaptured sense of it, we venture on. Well, this is a long build-up for 8 lines. But you'll find that in the 8 lines, you'll get what I'm after. I was visiting in New York, and at the home, and my hostess, where I was entertained, asked me to do an errand. She said, Follette, will you go up in the Bronx this afternoon on an errand, and I want you to take some money up to an old man who lives up there that she was interested to help. And I said, oh yes. So she gave me the money, and away I went way on up in the Bronx in the afternoon. It was warm, hot summertime. And I looked, and I walked, and I walked, and I looked, and I followed this address, and he moved. It was what Mother calls a wild goose chase. Have you heard of that? Yes, a fool's errand at no point. So I thought, well, this is surely a fool's errand. Now, I wasted the afternoon, and I couldn't find the man, and there's nothing to it. Now, I'll just have to go back to the city. And I don't like cities. I go through them. I can endure them, but I never want to live anymore. I couldn't do that. And so I thought, well, here's this horrible, unreal thing. Great big stone buildings. And, I don't like them. And so I just thought, well, best thing's go on home. So I climbed up on one of those big buses. Fifth Avenue buses has double-decker. And I went up on the top so I could be near the light and air, not sitting and squeezed in, bumping down 5-6 miles of that thing. So I thought, let me get up on the top of this and get some air. So I went up there, and there I sat. And we were rolling on down. And as we rolled down, I looked up. I saw this flashing, silvery thing flashing. I thought, what? Oh, I thought their airplane must have dropped them. Their pamphlets or something that they're springing down for people to use. And I thought, well, if it were, those leaflets never fly up again. And here they were cavorting, flying. Oh, I thought, no. Well, that's a flock of lovely doves. White, beautiful, glistening, beautiful things. Oh, I thought, isn't that lovely? And so I just enjoyed them, tipping. How many know doves in a flock never fly like wild geese do? Have you ever seen wild geese fly? I saw them this fall when I was down in Texas. They holler, oh, good job, come out. The wild geese are going up overhead. Here were these wild geese. How many see them make that point, lie flat like this, and they're just going? Well, you never saw a flock of beautiful doves do anything like that. How many know they are much more detached? How many ever seen them swing? Then how many ever seen them sail? Then how many seen them tip? And that's what they were doing. And oh, isn't this marvelous to see these doves cavorting and swinging, sailing? And I had a consciousness of God. I said, oh God, you're just smiling at me. I know you are. You're smiling. I know what you're saying. You don't like the city. I said, I don't. Well, these birds belong here too, but they don't live under the power of the city. They have learned the art of detachment. So though they are supposed to have habitat in the city, how many know they don't go around like a lot of ducks quacking? No, they had learned an art of saying, even though I'm bound here, I will not be bound under its law. I become detached. And he says, see, they've learned the secret. And they can soar. They can move. Oh, I said, I see it, Lord. I see it. I see it. I see it. That's right. How wonderful that is. God smiles like that. At my little funny heart, he just smiled at me and said, now that's what you can do. Learn to become detached and move. And the joy of your liberty, the joy of tipping and swaying and all that is for you. But you can't stay up there all the time. You have to go back where you're. Now take that with you. Take that liberty. Take that sense and consciousness that that's really where I belong, what I can do. Now go back. So I did. And my little messengers went away. But I found something. I put it back into my heart. And I said, thank you, Lord. I've seen you smile today. Don't you know he does? Mm-hmm. Yes. So I was cherishing that little thought. God smiles. And that was in my heart. And I went home. Of course, we had dinner in the evening. And she had a maid who served at the table. It was a wealthy home. And she'd come to the table, the dessert was served, and all this business. She was very charming. So she said, Mr. Follette, she said, what have you seen today? She thought I was going to say Empire State Building, Brooklyn Bridge. And just like a little Minnie, I just spilled it out. She said, what did you see? Well, I said, I saw God smile today. Well, that was enough. I guess she knew there was something. Well, this was enough. She says, I'm sure now. But you know, I guess God let me do it. And as I said that, I saw God smile today. And it came out of itself in a dash of silver wings, flashing against an azure sky, dipping, swaying, sailing high over noisy city streets crowded with 1,000 things. So may it be someday when the changing season brings trouble to my peaceful sky, that a song replace the sigh, while his smile my spirit greets in a dash of silver wings. How do you like that? Don't you like it? Do you find artistry in her? Well, that's what she says. She says that's magnificent. It's so short. But she says, what a philosophy. Well, I said, that's the way it comes. I said, he smiled. She looked like that. But I know he smiles. Surely he smiles. And so that's how I wrote that. It was only, I guess, 8 lines or so. In a dash of silver wings. Get your silver wings against the azure sky in the laws of contrast. That's good, that'll help you. Shall we read another one? Kind of feel like reading. Oh, here's another one. I'm talking about having seasons and having experiences. And those that we recapture and those that we hold, some of them we cherish, and some of them are rather haunting. Here's one. But now I'm not going to interpret it to you. I won't tell you exactly how it came. However, everything I have is in the background. And wouldn't people like to get in there? But I don't think it's really anybody's concern. Now, in this one, you think, I call it my star that is sunk behind a rugged mountain high. And then I go on and tell what the star had done for me and what it will do. And it's published in my book. And some crazy woman wrote a letter. Imagine, he says, "Dear Dr. Follette, would you do me a courtesy? I just would like to know who was the woman in that poem, the star." I nearly fell over. Can you imagine anyone being as impudent as that? Well, I want to say there was no woman in this involvement at all, but that would have spoiled her lovely picturesque thought of Follette with a star that had dawned in his horizon somewhere. So I had quite a good laugh. I said, "Oh Lord, I guess I won't talk on tapes or publish poems or anything anymore. I'm just going around like that." But I couldn't. It's out. But this is, you may interpret it from many angles. Your star may be a personality. It may be a cause which you have embraced that has infatuated you and you've given your very life for it. It may be a proposition. It has at least 4 varieties of interpretation. Anything which has come across your path and has left an impact upon you, then has vanished before it could accomplish what you thought and felt secretly in your heart that it might. Do you get me yet, or don't you? It came, and you had interpreted it as such, and it's gone. How many know the haunting then? The haunting. And so I call it my star. Now, it may be a cause, it may be a person, it may be almost any episode which has done this in your spirit, in your heart. It is gone. I saw it drop from out my sky, behind that rugged mountain high, a star that bloomed for me from out the deep and gave fair light to guide my feet. Its beams so clear, transcending every light, wrought wonders in my dreary night. It called in language never heard before, and shall I never hear it more? My dreams, long gone to dust, all lived again, now freshly washed in April rain. And where the winter snow had drifted deep, fair flowers wakened from their sleep. 'Twas night, but all the shadows dim and gray were harmless ghosts of yesterday. 10,000 other stars in brightness shone, but one in my heart, one shone alone. It traced an arc across my sky. I saw it bloom, I saw it die. It is not dead, for still in memory, where I may walk in liberty. At night, I often gaze up in the dark and bid my weary spirit hark, that I might hear that voice again and feel once more the April rain, and find the little flower ghosts that grow where long has lain the winter snow. 'Tis night again. My thoughts with shadows fill. 10,000 stars are shining still, but one has traced an arc across my sky. 10,000 other stars may die. Do you like it? Do you like it? How many can follow it? So I'll let you see the fleeting shadows of my soul. I want you to. I want you to, because I want to help you. I'm extremely human. Do you believe it? You don't mind if I'm human. How many feel I have a spiritual flair also? Yes. Well, don't you think it's right to have a real balance in it? I do. I do. Now maybe we better talk. You get tempted. You want another one? Let's have a... Wouldn't that be fun? Well, here I'm opening to my dandelion. How many remember that one? How does this thing get around, call out my hind ear? Well, this one I wrote in sunny California. It has its message also. It was when I was teaching down at the Bible school before we moved up even on the hill. How many of you remember my little cabin that I built in the back? Yes. Well, that was a good solitary place to be because I had no room on my own. I slept on the porch. That was the accommodation. I slept all for 2 years on a sleeping porch. In the winter it was quite breezy. But we didn't have money enough. Brother Needham did the best he could, but he didn't have money to do things. And I slept on that little old sleeping porch back there with a screen and burlap over it. Well, it's good, kept me alive anyway. Well, I used to be there a great deal and take my walks. So one day I had been up on the avenue. What was that? This little...
Figueroa.
No.
Avenue 50?
Yeah, what was in the avenue?
Well, it was Pasadena Avenue when we were there. That was the avenue.
Was the second avenue.
No. Double name.
Monte Vista? Wasn't 54? No.
Well, never mind. It was up. Monte Vista, I guess, maybe. It was an avenue. It was an avenue just up above. No. I don't mean that. I know that avenue. But anyway, I was walking up there doing some shopping, and as I was coming down, walking along to go back to the school, to my cabin, right as I walked along, here was a beautiful dandelion. Oh, he was nice and bright and big like that, singing. I knew he was singing, so I had stuff to listen. So I stood with the bags of stuff, and I looked at him, and he was singing wonderfully. His voice was mellow, yellow. You get me? It was mellow. It was yellow and mellow. And he was singing. And I rebuked him. I said, you lazy little thing, what are you doing here singing like that? It's November. And I told him, I said, it's November. How could you be singing like that in November? And I just listened, and away I went. I didn't know I was going to get a rebuke. And so I went on down to the cabin, and I just felt strange. I felt sort of rebuked. Why did you speak so to that flower? What do you know about it? What do you know about whether it blooms now or yesterday or what? Anything about it? And I wanted to go back and apologize, but of course they would have put me in silence then. So I just didn't. If I gave you all the kind of things that come into my mind, how many know I live a terrifically full life? I'm 80 years old and I'm still going. Still going. So I thought, I won't dare to go back and really do that, but in my heart I apologized. And I thought, well, that's all right. And then the Lord began to speak to me. He said, you don't know anything about that dandelion. But do you see what it's doing? I said, yes. It's November. It has missed the spring. It's all that's over with. And yet he persists in singing. And his lovely mellow voice is lifted up in November. and it is rich and full and mellow. And instantly, this man that I told you about, some of you, the doctor that, well, he's an old friend, he helped guide and direct me. He was like a spiritual father to me, a very fine preacher. Well, the doctor used to advise me and talk to me, now, John, be careful. He knew who I was before I did, you know. And he coveted me to move properly. Do that. Don't do that. Watch this. Well, it seems in his life, his people had died when he was but a young man. And he had ambition because he was a bright man. He had 2 or 3 degrees. He was really a brilliant, wonderful man. But you know, he had to give up what his normal pursuits would have been to raise the family. So he sacrificed his spring season, his love affairs, and the wife, and the home, and all that, which logically belonged to him. He let it go down in order to, as that sacrifice, he could build a family. How many see a consecrated spirit in there? Beautiful. And I knew why he never married. A lot of people didn't. They knew, I knew him very well. They said, why don't you suppose Dr. ever married? I want to say, well, it's none of your business. But I didn't dare to. I said, I don't know. How many know it's none of this? Nobody's business. He had a reason. He knew. God knew. And yet, in spite of the loss of all of that, he could direct and bless and bless and bless. And so this little old lazy dandelion, which only knew a day. How many of you seen them? Only a few days later, a little ghost stand up. And the lovely mellow thing is all gone. So I dedicate this to that saint who's gone on. Lazy little dandelion, lone blooming in November, with May flowers gone and the birds all flown, you've nothing to remember. You miss the pageantry of spring and mystery of waking to life and light when hope and joy were busy in its making. You never heard the robins sing before an April shower. You never knew the faith one finds in nests in leafy bower. Ecstatic joys belong to spring, ethereal and fleeting, but never lost to memory, if granted her a beating. In autumn's golden pageantry, your mellow voice is waking sweet songs and flowers when the earth her winter bed is making. How brave to sing without a spring, and have no note of sorrow, contented thus to sing today and stand a ghost tomorrow. Royal little dandelion, lone blooming in November, spring may come, spring may go. To sing I must remember. You like it? How many get the truth of it? Do you get it? Yeah. And so he rebuked me and talked to me and gave me a very, very sweet lesson that without a spring, some of us are denied many things, but take it in stride and be able to sing without a spring and have no note of sound. Some can't be trusted with disappointment or sorrow because it does something to their spirit. That's right. That's right. It should bring something that you can communicate and bless, not to bring you to an introvert moaning over the wall. How many ever met souls like that? You're only conscious of loss conscious. One say, well, dear, well, I've lost it. I've had loss too. But you know, there's a way you can handle that thing. There's a way to handle that thing. Don't let it do you damage. Let it be a means of liberation and an avenue out which you may ride afresh. Shall we read another one? goodness sake. Well, we'll have to have that lesson that I thought I was going to give. Maybe we'll give it tomorrow. I don't know what one to read. Oh dear, that isn't in here.
Behind you.
Oh, is it?
The apple trees, old apple trees.
Apple trees. That's good. Because to me, any tree has distinct personality. Then you get acquainted with them and they minister to you. Now, I know trees in a radius of 2, 3, and 4 miles from where I live. I know certain trees, and they're just as real to me, and I salute them. There's a certain tree that I salute. Absolutely I do. It pulls it out of you, because that tree is like a real living person. He has ministered to me so many times. Many times. And so I always think of trees. Now, for instance, here I have these are old apple trees, which I long to see, because we're in New York State, in the apple belt, and I was born where we have apple trees. Now, apple trees mean more to me than an orange tree, or a lemon tree, or any of the rest of them, because of a law of association of even childhood. They did things for me. And so I wrote this in absentee. That is, my heart was in New York State, visiting the old apple orchards, when my body was in Colorado. But how many of you can transport your mood? And I love those trees because they're gnarled. Have you ever seen an apple tree that was perfectly straight and perfectly balanced? No, you never have, because it's against the nature of the tree. How many of you know, as they mature, they attain a certain slant? You do. It's a part of their nature. A certain slant. Then they put out their arms this way and this way. And every tree is beautiful to me. It's artistic. The manner of its branches. And then I like them in every season. I see them now, right in my mind, easily I can recapture it. We lived on a farm, we had the apple orchards, and in the winter, when we have a certain snow, and it melts and then freezes, how many know the glare of ice and crust, we call it, and how many know its power to reflect, and shadows that it'll hold. And nothing pleased me more than to see these old apple trees after a storm when the crust was right. And that great big sheet was just like a big looking glass, and you see the trees all again. And that charmed me. I remember that as a child. It was good. I enjoyed it. And of course I enjoyed them in the spring. So I found that after all, as personalities, they serve me in their beauty of spring as much as in the winter, when their true character is portrayed, because all the artificial trappings of coverage are taken off and the tree itself is exposed. How many of you there's a camouflage in the summer? They're more or less masks. I call it a camouflage. But how many know you love them? But isn't it lovely when they dare to say, this is the way I really am. I'm going to let you see. And the wind blows. Do you ever have the spirit to blow any of your camouflage off? Yes, it blows it off, and you're scared to death to see your naked arms of the true person protruding, coming up. Oh, don't we all know it? Nobody said amen. Oh, no. I know you're real with me. I love old apple trees in bloom, old trees aslant and bent, replete with strength from every storm the many years have sent. It matters not how very gnarled each branch and limb may be. It is the place that spring loves best, it always seems to me. She hangs her softest colors there, pale green and pink and white, a mist of floating loveliness, baptized in golden light. Their beauty is so delicate and yet So wondrous strong, it binds and holds my trembling heart as with a magic thong. And oh, that sweetest liquid note that only robins bring when to the apple trees they come to mate and build and sing. Dear apple trees, abloom with life, you make my heart to break. For you have caused another spring within my heart to wake. I love old apple trees in bloom when songsters all have fled, abloom in white on winter nights when spring lies cold and dead. The ghostly moon makes shadows then across the crusted snow, and nestling in the branches bear the restless wind sigh low. I love old apple trees in bloom with every blossom gone. Then, when my heart is nearest them, they sing their sweetest song. Old apple trees abloom, you know, not only bloom, but sing. The flowers and birds may come and go. Theirs is eternal spring. You like that one too? That's a country boy's idea of apple trees. Let me read one of my Christmas ones that I think is good. I think you'll enter in with me. For these 44 years, I've written a Christmas poem every Christmas. And of course, there's a variety in them. The first one I wrote was in Rochester, way back. And every year since, excepting 1 year I was in Australia and I couldn't get my work done, every year I've written them, 44. So I have approached the incarnation from 44 angles. The wise men, the gifts, the manger, the stable, Mary, the Christ child, sheep. Every angle, you can almost think of 44 angles to get at it. But this time, I always write because I feel and see the thing. This came because in imagination, I guess it's imagination. Mom always said, well, dear, you got an awful imagination. I guess I have. And you have to do anything, seems to me. But I remember when this first came, I was just transported, and I thought, I'm going to that stable, just untutored. I just want to move on and see my reactions as I come to the stable. And this was my reaction. This is what I discovered as I went into this stable where the little Christ child is. Hark! The herald angels singing. Sweet the music, loud and clear. Cease, O earth, thy tumult raging. God to earth is bending near. Once again the heavens open, and transcendent is the light. Shine, oh shine in greater measure, scatter all this earth-bound night. As I seek the lowly stable, and my heart as gift I bring, lo, the manger shines with glory, and I hear the angels sing. In a corner of the stable, near the patient oxen stall, rests a mother sheep and lambkin, where the deepest shadows fall. Though the glory shines in splendor, making all a blaze of light, I am mindful of that corner and the little lamb and night. Though the music loud is ringing, coming to us from on high, in a corner by its mother, I can hear a lambkin cry. Lamb of God, in lowly manger, Do you hear the lambkin bleat? Does the cry mean something deeper than the angel's music sweet? Little Paschal Lamb, I hear thee. I am in the shadow too. Hark! I hear the angels singing. Christ the Lamb is born for you. Do you like that one? You get how you get to two, the real aspect of it. There might very well have been a mother sheep with a little lamb. We don't know. It possibly could be. I like to think so. And when you think decent thoughts like that, he doesn't condemn you either. How many are glad? Yes. Yes. Oh, I have a wonderful time imagining things. Mercy, I go all over all kinds of things. It's just wonderful. It's rather expensive at times because you suffer as much as you rejoice. And that's the toll you pay. So this is my Paschal Lamb. I want to talk to you about my bird's nest. This is what I want to tell you about this bird's nest. And it also has a ministry. Home at Christmas time, I always go out to the woods and fields and get my greens, good big arm. Well, you know, some can't have a green in the house. It relates to the heathen. How many have heard that funny thing go? Well, what funny folks we are. How many know some won't even have a Christmas tree? No. It relates some way back in mythology. Well, supposing it does, we don't have to drag that into our thought about the greens. No, but people are funny. They surely are. It's these strange ideas they have today of being holy or spiritual. It doesn't rest within the realm of this at all. That's not the gauge of it at all. So I have Christmas greens if I want it. I can do a lot of things. The Lord never says beans about it. Only says, you like it? And I said, yes, Lord, we'll go along with it. Isn't that nice? Well, how many know my liberty is mine and yours is yours? They always say, well, watch out, because you have to be watching for the weaker brother. No, it says strengthen your weaker brother so that he can buy a Christmas tree. Don't you know that's right? You know that's right? But strengthen him so that he can buy a tree and enjoy it. Don't cut your tree down to get level with his ignorance. Oh, they don't seem to interpret the Bible right to me. No. Strengthen your weaker brother. And he says, they have no right to judge you in your strength any more than you have to condemn their weakness. That's right. He has no business to annoy me with my liberty. No, he hasn't. So I had gone out. This has the idea of transporting sounds, smells, odors. Any of these things have power to transport you. In psychology, we took a course with an experimental psychology and our reactions in that field. It was very interesting. I'm glad we had it. Do you know, in our senses, our five senses, which of these senses are most acute that will call most perfectly to you a past experience? Which one? Something you see?
Smell.
Smell, that's right. Your sense of smell is of the five, that will call more perfectly a recapturing of an emotion than any of the rest of them. Now, when you think of it, how do you know that's true? How do you know just a whiff of something and you're gone? Sure. Well, now, psychologically, that's right. It's true. Now, for instance, if I'm riding out in the country and I just get a whiff of smoke from some farmhouse, oh, in my grandmother's kitchen as quick as lightning. Just like that. I'm right in the kitchen. I see everything in the kitchen. The mantelpiece, the hand grenades, the clock. I really am. And what is it? Just that. Now, that's true. Oh, I travel around lots. Beats jet travel. Yes, it does. Because that's true. Sound will do it. certain sounds with the law of association. How many know you can be transported easily, quickly? The sense of smell is the chief one in our psychoanalytical analysis. We had analyzed. We had specimens and all deal levels. But it was awfully good fun. I enjoyed it. Psychology never was hard for me. Mathematics was, but when I got in psychology, I eaten right up. Why? Don't you know I would? Of course. Well, I'm in my real natural habitat when I get to feel like that. So I had gone out to get my greens, and I got a whole armful in the woods in the snow up to my knees, and I was climbing over an old stone wall, and we have those beautiful old rugged stone walls laid 100 and 200 years. Those stone walls have been built, and they're gray and beautiful, and I just love them. And I climbed down over one, and as I came across the field in the snow up to my knees, I came to a briar patch. Now, we have running blackberries and standing blackberries, wild ones. We have the running ones that are flat and full of thorns, and that they have delicious berries, but they're running blackberries. We have another kind that grow up on stalks, you know, like this. We call them canes. Cane. And here I came to this briar patch, and a miserable old briar cane with thorns and thistles. It was waving like that. Bent. It had a beautiful curve to it. Came right up out of the snow, and over on the end of it was a little warbler's nest about as big as that, fastened to it, swinging, swinging. How many know I heard a bird sing around it? Of course, I couldn't help it. So I had quite a little ceremony. Oh, I just stopped. And I heard a spring bird sing. And then I commenced to see things. And I was blessed. And it blessed me so, as a little minstrel would. I thought, well, I'll take him home. So I put my hand down in the snowdrift and broke off the thing. And here was my lovely spray, a bramble spray. Full of thorns, brambles. But it had a jewel in it. So I didn't look at the bramble, I looked at the jewel. I laid it on the greens, and I went plodding on home, went to the kitchen door, and Mother came out. She says, well, dear, did you get the greens? And I said, yes, it got wonderful. And I remember she said, well, what's this? And before I knew it, I don't know what made me. I said, oh, that's a poem, Ma. It hasn't been sung yet, but it's sure one. Well, she says, I suppose so. She was very good to me. Some of you knew my little mother. She was a real philosopher. What's there? Well, not much of her, but plenty. This tall, but plenty. She was from a Quaker stock. She was not too effusive, you know. This is Dad. This is Mother. You know, I'm a strange, unique combination. And people who know this said, you're your dad, but you're your mother. And I said, that's the combination. Any philosophic interior sense of things, that's my mother. But this explosive thing, this dangling around, reaching and talking, that's Dad. He was a teacher. Mother wouldn't do that. She would know 10 times as much as that, but she wouldn't tell us, you see. So she says, so I went in, decorated, mantle, and I put this, I had done a picture. I guess some of you have seen that picture of when I come out of the darkness of the woods. It's done in chalk and pastels. Well, how big is that? That's another story. I had done that, and I had it framed and put over here. Well, that's a good association. That's woods, that's country. I just stuck it up like that over it, and it was artistically pretty. But it was a bramble, just a bramble thing, thorns on it. But that exquisite little nest, that's what charmed me. And I had, I guess, 4 years before I let it go, but it began to disintegrate and crackle down. So I put it up there, and to me it always is just a little souvenir of my time at the bramble bush when I had found it. Well, then one day, the head of the English department of the college came over and making the call and said, Follette, what's that? Looks like bird's nest. Well, I said, it is, but it's a poem. I told my mother, it's a poem, but it hasn't been sung yet. But that, oh, sing it then. Oh, I thought, yes, he said, sing it, sing it. I thought that's a funny thing. Maybe there is something in that. So one time when I was quiet in my room, that kept coming singing. So I thought, oh Lord, tell me how to put this thing in shape. And he gave me this poem. Now I want you to see two things, scientifically, a truth, but I tuck it away. How many ever watched a bird make a nest? How many watched perhaps a robin? When he comes with his mouth, just a big hunk of clay, just mud. You'd think the mud would overbalance the bird, but it doesn't. He can hold a hunk of mud that big. And he places it in. How many of you can see him with a little tender grass, not stiff hay, but little fibery grass that he can make? And now how many of you watch him shape the nest? Yes. He gets in and throws his breast against it like that, goes all around. That's how he shapes the nest. He shapes it. I had binoculars, and a year ago I had the most exquisite time from my window, and I brought the bird right up where I could see him, and called one of the young ones off the street to see it. He's never forgotten. I thought, you want to see something, dear? Something beautiful? Yeah. Well, I said, just look, I'm watching a bird. It's nice to share things. And so I watched that bird build a nest. Then I found out that a bird doesn't learn to build a nest. The first nest it makes is just as perfect as the last one, because he's following an instinct, a law of construction and building which is already innate in him. Nobody tells him how. No other bird says, wiggle this way, now do it. No one. How do you see he's following an instinct within that builds him a perfect nest? That charmed me. I thought, that's right. Whoever told that little bunch of feathers what to do? Whoever told him that? The other thing is, it's special note. How many know the chirp and the warble of a robin? If you hear one, you'll never forget it, because it's specifically his. If my great-great-great-great-grandmother should rise up and hear one, what would she say? Robin. Why? Because in all the great years that have gone on for hundreds and hundreds of years, he has never changed it. That's his own particular tone. That's the tone, the sound of voice that belongs to him. There are many sounds, the Scripture says, meaning voice in the world, not one without signification. I believe it. And so I thought, well, that's true too. But the thing that just thought was so wonderful is that bird should select such an impossible situation to make a nest. You get me? Why didn't he go where there was something pleasing and beautiful to make his home? No, he made it on an impossible situation that he turned into his home, to his dwelling place. He didn't go up in the pine tree somewhere. No, he took an impossible situation. And get me, or don't you get me? The bramble spray. Well, that's what I saw, and I thought, well, Lord, that bird is certainly preaching to me. He just preached and preached and preached. A poem that I cannot write, a frail, exquisite thing, I found one day in snow-blown field and heard a spring bird sing. It was a simple little nest upon a bramble spray, a home some happy bird had built in joyous sunny May. Who taught him how to build his nest? Who gave to him his song? Who kept these arts preserved for us the many ages long? This was his home. Here sat his mate. The nest was blessed with young. This bramble was a holy place, and love the song he sung. Oh, could I tell in simple words what mysteries you wake that flood my heart with ecstasy and leave a strange, dull ache? Upon the wall of memory I hung the bramble spray, a nest of subtle artistry, a gem I prize today. Oh, could I make my life a gem upon a bramble spray, that I might leave to sing for me when I have gone away. The winter snow has drifted deep. My heart, where is the spring? I see a nest upon the wall and hear spring birds sing. Do you like that one? You like it? How do you get the drift of it? Now that can come out of a little bird's nest on a bramble. It's really exquisite, isn't it? There's a delicacy, but how do you get profound feeling in it? You know? Well, I suppose that's what makes the poetry. And that has been chosen several times, because it has a message. Some of us feel we've struck pretty rough bramble spray in life, but how do you know we can turn it into a very cheerful habitat? Yes. It's all how we interpret it. He was able to take an impossible bramble spray and make it a home for himself, which in later days ministered to me and is now ministering to you. How many of you are getting the benefit of that bird's nest? A little bird didn't know, God did. That little bird's ministering. He's ministering right now. If he hadn't done that, we wouldn't have it. Now tell me when to stop, because I go on here. Do you want another one?
Yes.
Oh.
And the Indian one? The Indian one?
Oh, yes, but that's pretty tragic. This is one that they have selected to be read. I call it The Red Man's Return. I wrote it at the period of this awful depression. You remember when that awful depression struck? And we had the bread lines lined up on the street we did in New York, went a regular queue for 2 blocks, a bread line. And that year we kept track of it because I had word from Washington, because I want statistics to prove the message that I have here, and I had them. How many schools were closed that season because of lack of funds, that they could not even take the little children into their schools? In the Southwest, there were any number of schools were closed because of the lack of funds, because they needed it. The depression was so terrifying, so horrible. It was reflected in every field. And I was disturbed about it. But I'm sort of a coward, and I wouldn't come out and express myself too openly. I chose this old Indian as my mouthpiece, and I let vent of my sarcasm. I give vent to it through the vehicle of this old Indian, who has long gone to the happy hunting grounds. He's left the order of life that he knew in its simplicity, when it was near to God and without too much sophistication. But the wise white man must come in with all his order and push the poor Indians way back. Do you remember it? Rob them, push them way back and back and back and back to what we would call almost impossible land. But the irony of it is this: that government has a few bad pages in history. Yes, they have. Our government is wonderful. I have wonderful company. You know, she isn't perfect. No. She has bad blots. And one of them is the treatment of the Indian, which has always irked me. Always. I have a great affinity for them. I love them. I have great affinity for them, feeling for them. So they pushed them back and back. And you remember down in the Southwest, they put them on that awful desert? It's turned out to be the most valuable oil field that we have in America. Now they're having an awful time trying to get it back from the poor Indians. I think, you miserable government. If I ever got down there, I'd be working Carrie Nation with a hatchet. I certainly would. I want to get in there and tear the thing loose, because it's all wrong. Well, all of that it hurt me so. And I thought, well, look at the poor, benighted Indian. But even though he's heathen in the sense, he has no sense of our Christian faith at all, but he had a sense of a God. Yes, he did. He had a sense he knew there was something otherwise than this, and he knew to give thanks to it. How many ever seen them do the corn dance? Yes. Yes. Well, what is that? That's their Thanksgiving service that we have. Or we stand in the church and say, "Praise God from whom all blessing." We sing that. The Indian turns around and holds the corn in his hand and goes, woo, 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 and he's having what? Thanksgiving to God for the corn. I think God sees that. Do you think he does or don't you? I think he does. It is an expression from a benighted, darkened heart, but feebly reaching out toward the source that gave him the corn. He doesn't know the technical names. I love him for it, too. Always there. But all of that was just irking me when I saw the government doing these wild, fantastic things with money that has no sense and robbing the legitimate things and pushing it away. So I thought, I'll let that old Indian come back from the happy hunting grounds and step into America today with all the situations they had. And so that's what I'm writing. So I am in this old Indian venting my wrath. But they selected it and desired it to be read. The red man's return. Paleface is in need. Paleface is in trouble. My ear is quick. Long have I heard a cry from hearts of men denied the right to live, from children robbed of childhood's happy days, and from the land itself slain and plundered. The cry has reached the happy hunting ground. So, Paleface, I have come. I cannot rest. Have you no shame? Has culture lost the word? Not only would you drive me from my home, wipe from the face of earth those of my race, insult the land, but haunt me still in death. I am the spirit of the red man's race. I am spirit. Do not try to see me. Too long your eyes have looked upon things seen. The glint of gold, flash of sword, make blind. Your selfish grasp already holds my land. Be satisfied to hold the things of earth. I am spirit. Pray do not deny me. To say I do not live deceives your heart. Long has it fed upon deception's bread. The red man did not bid you come to us, but you had dreams and sought to make them true. It mattered not that you should crush my race, to build one of your own of greater worth. Your cities gleam in splendor on my blood. Your buildings stand in arrogance and pride. Why count how many stories high they rise, while in the street below a bread line waits and winds, unfed, in rags, a contradiction bold. To wisdom that can build cities strong, and cannot lift her fellow men from need. Our fathers dwelt in wigwams and teepees. They did not pride themselves on buildings tall, but they had food to eat, and that for all. Our fair prairie land has long been plowed. Deep furrows you have torn upon my back, and rich the yield of corn and golden wheat. The Mother Earth has given of her wealth that all her children might be clothed and fed. And thankless you have insult her, and would tear her wounds afresh, and burn her wheat and corn, a willful waste of food and wherewithal. Do you remember how they burned up the wheat and stuff and killed the pigs? I got the number from Washington, how many bushels and how many pigs were slaughtered. I wanted to get that thing because it was so vile and so horrible. A willful waste of food and wherewithal, while ragged men by thousands starve for food, What strange philosophy of life is this? Our children played in happy childhood sports. They fished the streams and knew the forest lore. While young we trained them to be stalwart braves and taught them truth and honesty of heart. So busy you have been in making things, machines and implements of war to kill, that you have made no men to carry on. Men are of greater worth than many things. By thousands do your children stand and wait before your schools, all closed for lack of funds, while millions are poured out in sacrifice before the God of war, a God we hate. You call us savage, uncivilized, because in self-defense we dare to fight to save our land, our homes, and very life. Our children and our squaws are dear to us. You forced us to a fight to save their lives. Too many years have passed, and in that time our land has given you its richest store of power, food, and dressings manifold. It is not that you need more of its wealth. Your eyes are blind. Your foolish hearts are drunk. Too deeply have you slaked your thirst for power. The things that you could do and make and build have run ahead of what you should have been. A schoolboy now you stand, all hedged about with all the million things which you have made, your body overgrown and mind untrained. You have not fed your heart on bread of truth. Paleface is in trouble. Paleface must be brave. Brave not to fight and kill his fellow men, but brave to look within his needy heart. He must be strong and learn to love the truth. The best of plans and schemes, but only fail if honesty and truth are set aside. Paleface is blind. The splendor of his work has dimmed his eyes to beauty of the stars, the changing lights upon the distant hills, the mystery and glory of the earth's face. Where red men's hearts could trace 1,000 joys, Paleface is deaf. The noise of many wheels has dulled his ears to sounds the red man heard. He could not hear the music of the streams. He never knew the song of rain and wind. He did not hear the cry of agony the forest made when Paleface struck them down. He did not hear the prairie sigh and moan when plowed and torn to yield her corn and wheat. He did not hear the groans of the ancient hills when drilled and blasted to the heart for gold. Paleface must make him men who hear and see, who value truth and honesty. Above all things his wisdom makes with skillful hands. Paleface must make him men to carry on. You like that one? Well, that's been selected to be read. I'm thinking it should have been, I suppose. Well, I can't be bothered with it. Yes? Oh dear, don't you get tired? Could you follow me in this? Yes. Yes. It's so true. It's really the truth. And I know God poured it through me. And I had it a long time shut in my desk till my sister came up from New York and she knew I did things. She said, "Johnny, have you done anything lately?" I said, "Oh, Evie, I got a poem, but I've only read it to Ma and I don't know." She said it was all right. Well, she said, "Read it." Well, I said, "I've never read it." I said, "I felt terrific when I wrote it." Well, she said, "Read it, dear." And I read it. She turned, she said, "Dear, that has real value." Oh, she said, "That has real value." Well, she sensed, I suppose, while I was trying to drive that, You don't care because I get real wild, do you, occasionally? Well, I'm wild in somebody else. I get wild in this man, this old Indian, but I could feel with him easily. For a little boy, I call it discovery in the life of a little boy. I love the innocency and they're so guileless and sweet and beautiful little children, their responses. And this little boy has discovered that trees can talk, if you can imagine it. But he had reason for it. You see, he had been taken with his parents on a visit, and they were talking to a deaf and dumb person like this, And he thought that was amazing, that would mean something, that he could talk. Well, they just got him. So he made this discovery. I'm sure I know that trees can talk, although they never run or walk. For there are some that I have seen that turn and bend and even mean together like old women do when one is found out gossip's true. Now deaf and dumb folks talk, I know, by making finger signs just so. And trees can talk that very way. I stopped and watched them most all day. Their slender hands they gently swayed, then folded still. I think they prayed. Their finger twigs then made such signs, 'twas hard to follow out their lines. They talked so fast. Their fingers flew when happy singing breezes blew. At times I understood quite well, but I shall never tell just what the trees told me that day. With words like ours, 'tis hard to say. For trees can talk. If we could hear, but we must listen right in here. And he held his heart. How many know that's where you listen? But he must listen right in here. How many know that's the child of it? Yeah. So he heard. I was quite patient with him because now I'll read two here that go as companions. I wrote one for one, and then I wrote the other as a complement to it. So one's complementary to the other. They both have to do with my heart, and with yours too. This one I call confession. Confession. Now I hope you're with me. How many know, even though we are saved and sanctified terrifically, that our heart remains a normal, natural feature in our makeup? It still remains. Now it's my privilege to recognize it, or I may ignore it. God doesn't take it out and drown it in the Pacific Ocean. It's still left there. And so this one I call it confession, because in my heart I have all these strange experiences. All silently he paces back and forth within the narrow confines of his cell, a hungry panther hidden in my heart. I do not hear his steps, but then full well I know he's there, for many, many times I feel his cushioned feet upon the floor, as wearily he makes his endless round, and sometimes puts his paws against the door. At night, when shadows lurk within his cage, two strange lights gleam and glow like balls of fire. His eyes, in fruitless searching, penetrate the darkness with their hunger and desire. Well trained, he does not vent his passions fierce when thoughts of broken dreams would haunt him sore. His rage is pent. A captive he is held. To gain his freedom now he tries no more. This panther is a phantom in my heart. and knows no life apart from that I give. 'Tis only when I loose the chains of thought that he has any power to live. You like that one? How do you know that's real? That's real. So I thought that was rather negative, but I thought it's real. Anybody who's honest knows that. You have a phantom that must haunt you. Sanctified, holy brother, glory to God. I am too. But he didn't kill my phantom. He still lives. He still comes haunting. So I thought that poor heart of mine. Oh Lord, is there any rest? Is there any hope for me, Lord? I'm given to you. I'm saved, sanctified, blessed, baptized, all that. But my heart, Lord, my heart, my heart. So a little while later, he gave me this one. I hope this one will be more encouraging, because this is just as real as the other. While dwelling in this prison house of flesh, and bound by limitations of its clay, my longing spirit waits to take its flight to realms beyond this little life and day. My spirit used to beat against the bars and long for freedom from this dreary cell, until one day a tender dove found room within my heart and settled there to dwell. This guest who shares this prison house with me has come to tell me of a home above, and daily makes me ready for that place and tells me secret things of one I love. He is so very quiet in his ways. By gentle wooing, he has won my heart. My lonely cell would be a cheerless place had he not liberty in every part. And when the prison doors shall open swing, he will not flee and leave me here to roam, for I could never find my Father's house. Together we shall make the flight back home. You like that one? Don't you think that's real too?
What's the name of it?
Oh, Prisoners of Hope. Yeah, Prisoners of Hope. We're both in there. He is in my heart waiting to go, and I'm there waiting to go. We're both waiting. And so he said, now don't be afraid. When the door swings open, I won't go on and leave you, because you'll never get there. But together we'll go. So when the door swings open, he will not leave me here to roam, for I could never find my Father's house. Together we shall make the flight back home. Read another one? Aren't you getting tired? What time is it? 10 or 11?
When not your mind.
Informal ways.
Informal ways. Is that here?
Maybe there
I don't know.
somebody has it. It's in
It's rather on the mundane level of earth. It's on the mundane level. It has spiritual value, but I'm not in the clouds just now with this one, looking at the pearly gates. I haven't got as far as that. I'm still looking at things here. And I'm glad I still do. I never get tired of it. And so I call this informal ways. You see, God makes his approach to us through truth. And oftentimes it's so heavy. It's so heavy. It's real, it's genuine, but it's heavy. And then he wants to make himself known to us in a revelation of things very much nearer than that. So I always keep my heart open when I walk. Wherever I go, I keep it open for him. And we talk together, we live together, and it's wonderful. And so if he has an occasion to say something to me, he may do it in most informal ways, rather than the staid, accepted style and fashion. Our definition of God, for instance, in school, dear me, remember teaching systematic theology. Isn't it good I don't have to teach all that stuff anymore? I'm so glad I'm out of that. I had to suffer it for years and years and years. But it was all right. It was all right. But you see, there is no definition that will really define it. How many think you could bring a definition of God down into words? You can't, because you're trying to put an infinite concept into finite bindings, and you can't do it. And so I knew that. So I kept hoping that I could see him in something beside a school book. God comes to me in such informal ways. Not always does he wear a priestly robe with trappings of ecclesiastic art. I do not always find him in a creed so tight in definition and in form there is no place for his creative life. The nicely chosen words which seek to tell the mystery and wonder of his name distract me, and I lose the one I seek in mazes of sheer rhetoric and words. Now, did you see that? It's true. You lose him in that. And you got your definition and God's out of it. And you thought you'd captured him. Oh no, he made his escape. How wonderful that he should seek to come, not in some worn-out creed or church's lore, nor at a certain altar fixed by man, nor in the patterns that I make myself. He suddenly appears along the way in subtle breath of apple blossoms fair, in shining swords of grass which push their way through unresponsive clods of silent earth. How can I see creation in such mood and not feel God and see him very near? I wonder at the mystery of life, and as I see a helpless little babe with hands upon the circle of the breast and mouth pressed close for this its very life, more eloquent no sermon e'er could be. God comes and stands close by my very side, and something of this mystery I see. A single leaf, all ripe and falling from the tree, now finds a quiet resting place in earth. My heart is hushed. My spirit bows to God. For lo, I find him even here to show in simple form the ministry of death. Sometimes he comes in such delightful moods. I saw him smile in dash of silver wings against an azure sky one day in June. And often, when I'm worn and tired in mind, I feel him move like music in the trees, and see him in the shadows of the clouds against the distant hills and o'er the fields. And when I view the wonders spread abroad, the rugged heights and painted chasms deep, the crashing waterfalls and deserts calm, it is not these alone that I behold. My God is very present in the scheme, and silently, in awe and reverence, my soul bows down in worship at his feet. He does not speak in words for outer ear. His presence is too subtle for my eyes. It is with heart I ever feel him near, and trace with inner sense his fleeting form. His revelation seeks 1,000 ways, articulate and clear to outer sense, but deeper is the vision that I see when unannounced he comes to me and meets me in such sweet, informal ways. Is that so? How you have having to do that in spite of one of my own sermons with point 4? And you go home. How you have taken a walk and received 5 times as much in just a gust like that. I'm glad you do. I think we did.
Well, would it be awful wicked to have you read His Boy and His Dog?
Oh, that's very, very human. Well, I'll read it, Bill. This is I wasn't going to read that, but if you like it. This is from my very human side. It deals with another little boy. These children I never get tired of them. I think they're the most amazing. I love to watch them in their reactions, in their simplicity, in their little outreaches. I'm going to have an orphanage in the next days with 1,000 children in it. Wouldn't that be lovely? I am. I just love them. I love them. Strange that in the last 2 years, I have been burdened for children. I don't know why in the world, here at this age, 80 years old, loving little children. I feel like I just love them. I want to be with them. I want to help them. I can't help it. I have spoken to 2 places where I thought maybe I'd get in with them. I go home with them. I really do. There's something about the possibilities of a child that I feel should be sheltered and released and covered and cultured and then released. And so these children are wonderful to me. And this is a little boy who's, of course, gone to Sunday school and heard about all the good things and angels and heaven and everything nice. And he had a dog. And every boy should have a dog as much as a girl ever had a doll. I believe that. Don't you think so? Sure. I had my dog. He was the best dog, too. Because, you know, they don't seem to know pedigree. Each dog is the best one in the world, because it's his. And so this little boy had this wonderful dog and died. And that was the tragedy. And so I wrote this to tell his reactions. And I wasn't going to put it in the book at all, but I prayed about it, and the Lord said to do it. So this isn't wholly religious. This isn't on just terrible religion. It's something out of my heart. So this is read by people who don't know anything about God at all, and yet they get help. So I wrote this tragedy in the life of a little boy. This is his tragedy. My dog is dead. The best dog in the world. And I shall never say again, come Ned, and see him jump and wag his tail and grin and blink his eyes. He knew just what I said. I found him in the grass behind the barn, and I thought he was asleep. He was so still, and when he didn't answer to my call, I ran and called for Jim up on the hill. Now Jim works for us, and always liked Ned too. He laid him in a box and dug a grave, and he put his arm around me when I cried and said, why, Ned's all right. You just be brave. I tried to be real brave and not to cry. I guess Jim knew just how I felt inside. He didn't say so much, but he held me tight and stroked my head until my tears were dried. But when the sun went down and it was dusk, I thought of Ned, and I went back by his grave. And then a lump got swelling in my throat, and I felt awful trying to be brave. If being brave is holding back my tears and having feelings that I have to hide, then I don't always want to be so brave. So I crawled up by his grave and cried. I didn't feel the lumping. So after that, it melted into tears and ran away. And then I thought of when I first found Ned. I'm sure I never shall forget that day. I looked at him, and then he looked at me and wagged his tail, and then began to smile, and we just belonged together. That was all. Since then, we've been together most all the while. And then I got to wondering where he'd gone, and how he liked to up there all alone. For he's gone to heaven, I'm sure. I wonder if he tried to come back home. And then I said a little prayer for him, and I told the Lord just what was on my mind. That if he had a little boy up there who wanted Ned and would be very kind, why, he could borrow him just for a while with him to play there on the Golden Street. For he would surely want a dog like Ned if paradise for him were real complete. I wonder if we have to play on harps. For I could never learn to play I know, and flying around a throne forevermore and wearing crowns of gold would tire me so. I wonder if the Lord would really mind if I had Ned and not the other things. I'm sure that we would both be very glad, and God could keep the harp and crowns and wings. I told him I would only lend my dog. I really think that way is only fair. The other little boy can borrow him, but give him back to me when I get there. How do you like that one? That's so very, very human. Very, very human. God bless you. Yes, that's right. Any kind of a reaction. Even with poetry? Sure, that's real. I don't sit down and make this for business. I sit down and write because it releases me and lets me out. And I want to get out on every angle that's possible. I think we ought to go because it's late. Shall we sing a chorus? We thank Thee for this little informal evening in which we've been able to share some of the things which You've made rich and real to me. And I don't want to be selfish to enjoy them myself because You've helped me with them, but I want to pass them along that any heart that can be instructed or illuminated or helped, everyone may share alike, because these things belong to Thee. Now dismiss us with Thy blessing. Give us good rest tonight. And if it be Thy pleasure tomorrow, let us gather again in Thy name to look upon Thy word. We ask it for Jesus' sake. Amen.